beautiful people, it's your favorite trash queen, Manu Zumi, back with a new video. So, perhaps this is not the video you were expecting, but I will get into that a bit later. So, first things first, happy Halloween! And for the second thing, I'm almost at 20,000 subscribers, which is amazing and wonderful, so thanks to everyone who subscribed to me. And, now, onto the third thing, which is a bit of an elephant in the room. You might all be wondering, where is that FAQ video, fam? Video? Did I just say video? FAQ video. Well, that is still in the works. I really enjoyed drawing your characters, and to be honest, I bit off a bit more than I could chew. I drew so many of your guys' characters, and for me, sketching doesn't really take a long time. It's the coloring that takes forever in a day. And with my work schedule, I haven't been able to color as many of them as I wanted for the video. And originally I thought I'd have more time to color in general, but that didn't happen. But I didn't want to go another week without posting anything, so that's where this video comes in. Probably read the title and you're like, yo, Manu, WTF? Well, anyway, the story behind this video is I had a speed paint that I had recorded while I was doing some experimentation with my coloring. So I thought, you know, well, I could post that, and since it's Halloween, I could tell you guys like a scary thing that happened to me when I was a younger potato. So that's what I decided to do. I'm going to keep on working on the FAQ video and the tutorial video in the background. I just want those videos to be the best they can because, you know, like, one's a tutorial, so I want it to not be lame, I guess. And the other one, you guys have all entrusted your OCs to me, and I don't want to rush and like make them look like trash or anything. And I am starting to ramble, so anyway, for now I'll be posting other videos in the meantime until I'm finished with those two videos. So they'll be up eventually, just, you know, they're special videos, so I want to take my time a little bit on those. So I will be the first one to say that this story sounds completely made up. To be honest, if it didn't directly happen to me, I don't know if someone told me this story if I would have believed it, but it happened to me. Also, on a side note, in the speed paint, I'm going to be coloring Okayu and a bit of Korone from Hololive. Yes, I'm obsessed. Yes, it's a problem, but that's a story for another time. Anyway, let's get into the story time. So, with this whole situation that I'm gonna be talking about in this video, I didn't actually remember that this was like a thing that happened to me and my group of friends. It must have been traumatic or something, because I had buried it so far back into the deep recesses of my subconscious, and it kind of just came back to light when this happened a little while ago. Me and my friends were going to McDonald's and I was driving, and I was just kind of making casual conversation, talking about how I had watched a documentary about cults and that it was interesting. And then from the back seat, my friend, who I'm going to call her Shorty, she just kind of casually pipes up from the back seat, and she's just like, yeah, you guys remember that time that cult came to our high school? And I was just kind of like, wait, what? What are you talking about? And she's like, yeah, like, do you remember that time that the cult came to our high school? I had absolutely no idea what she was talking about, by the way. I was like, what? And so then she started, like, recounting some of the details of that day. And as I was listening to her, it was like a truck hit me. The memory came flooding back to me so quickly. And I honestly cannot believe that I forgot that this was a thing that happened, because it was just so weird. And like, it makes me wonder, like, oh, okay, well, if I forgot this whole weird event, what else have I forgotten? You know what I mean? So back when I was in high school, I don't actually know if it's a thing that they do anymore, but the high school that I went to, they would often rent out the schoolrooms to different organizations for them to hold their meetings or whatever after school hours. So if you were to be hanging out at the high school after school hours, it was very common to see just random people everywhere, you know, there to attend their meetings. So one morning, on the morning announcements, the principal let everyone know that after school there was going to be one of these meetings, which was a little weird because like while everyone was used to seeing all these random people having meetings in the classrooms after school hours, it was never on the morning announcements that they were going to be doing this. It was just a thing that everyone knew happened. But the principal, he told us that it was a little bit different because this particular meeting was going to be like a seminar where the students were invited. He essentially told us that there was this author, and he had been writing a book that was aimed at teenagers, and he wanted to extend an invitation for teenagers to come to his seminar after school because he wanted some feedback on his book, and that, you know, essentially if you went and provided feedback, they would be giving you free food and drink, and you would also get extra credit in your English class. So like, honestly, the quickest way to get any teenagers to come to your thing is to offer them free food. So like, me and my friends heard free food, we're like, yeah, we're going. And we were like, free food and extra credit, like, yeah, we're going. And we were gonna be hanging out that day anyway because it was a Wednesday, and on Wednesdays we went to anime club. Yes, I'm a nerd. Yes, I went to anime club. And after the announcements, I mean, it was normal for like the first 2 periods of the day. While in the morning, there was nothing about the seminar anywhere. After second period, there was literally flyers everywhere. I don't know where they had found the time to do this, but literally everywhere there was flyers on all the walls of, like, advertising the seminar, which I thought was like weird, but I ended up forgetting about it. So fast forward to the end of the school day, and me and my friends met up in our usual spot, and we headed over to the classroom. To this day, I don't actually know what the classroom was for, because half of the time it was a special education classroom, and half of the time they were selling like the best cookies I've ever had in my life. They used to sell them out of that classroom. And like, the special education kids weren't always in that classroom, so I don't actually know what that classroom was there for, but you know, I'm rambling again. I remember when I went into the classroom, I was actually kind of surprised on like how many other people showed up. There was probably already like 15 kids in there, and like some of our English teachers were there, and the dean of students was already in there. And the way that the room was set up, there was a podium in the front of the room, and then there was just like a bunch of rows of chairs, and there were aisles in between the rows of chairs. Around the back perimeter of the room, there was a few chairs where the teachers were sat. So like, me and my friends, we just like walked into the room. Oh, also forgot to mention, there was also like one of those big white folding tables that you get like at Walmart, on the left side of the room, like real near the door. There was like 2 of them. There was 2 of those big white folding tables, but there was nothing on them. Anyway, so me and my friends, we went to go sit down, kind of sat near the teachers, and we were just kind of just like talking amongst ourselves, kind of like wondering what the seminar was going to be about. Eventually we kind of like turned around and started talking to the teachers behind us, and they were just kind of like, yeah, we don't know what's going to be about either, because like, I remember I'd asked one of the teachers, I was just like, so like, do you guys know anything? And they're like, no, we were just told it was gonna, you know, be an interesting seminar, and principal told us, you know, just give the kids who want some extra credit. So, you know, that's what that was. So they were just as much in the dark about everything as we were. It was honestly just like a normal thing. Like, we were just being teenagers, hanging out, talking to the teachers, making jokes and stuff, and the energy in the room was just like normal. I kid you not, about 5 minutes before the actual seminar, I want to say it was supposed to start, like, our school got off at 1:15. We got there around like 1:25, and if I remember correctly, the seminar was supposed to start at like 1:40 or something. It hits 1:35. It's like the energy in the room just shifted. It was so weird, because out of nowhere, all these people come in from the front door, and by the time this happened, like, most of the room was already filled with students. There was probably like 10 chairs that weren't filled. A whole onslaught. Is that the right word? Onslaught? That's not the right word. There was a whole line, just like a whole mess of people who came in from the front door. And I remember thinking, like, who are these humans? Because at first I thought, okay, I thought they were teachers, and then I looked at them and I'm like, I don't know who the hell any of those people are. And they were too old to be students. I remember eventually coming to the conclusion, I'm like, oh, okay, well, they're probably here to see the seminar too. Even though I did say that there were only about 10 or so chairs open, none of these people sat in any of the open chairs. Instead, they creepily elected to make a perimeter around the room. Like I said, they made a perimeter around the room, and some of them even stood in the aisleways, which I was like, well, that's rather strange. So like, I felt off. Like the energy in the room was bad. Like something was just off about these people. And I remember that the last guy who came in from outside, he closed the front door and he stood in front of it, and that made me feel really paranoid. But I was trying to like push all of those negative like red flags to the side, because I'm like, well, I mean, I was 17, I didn't know what to do. I was just a little bit in shock. And I remember looking around the room, and I made like awkward eye contact with this little old Asian lady, and she was standing in the aisle, and there was like a chair right next to her, but she just was like standing straight up staring at the front of the room with her arms together. And she just had, I guess maybe she just like looked over when she saw me looking over. Maybe she saw me looking over in like her like periph, and she gave me like the weirdest smile, and I looked away so quickly. I was like, what if I gotten myself into? And I'm like looking at my friends, they're looking back at me, and we're all just kind of like, okay, this is a little weird, not gonna lie. And then all of a sudden, they all these people who came in from outside just started clapping, and I was confused. I didn't know what to do, so I just started clapping too. And as they're clapping, the author comes out from, I don't know where he was. He came out from the void, I guess, and he walks up to the podium. So he's up there for a while. They're clapping and cheering. I stopped clapping after a bit. Like, I was polite clapping, not because I wasn't clapping because I was excited for the author, because like I said, I was still kind of sketched out about the whole situation. And then they stopped clapping, and the author started talking, and it was like really normal at first. So I started to like push away the more negative feelings again. I was like, okay, this is a little weird, but like this just seems like a normal thing. So then I didn't describe the author. The author, he was just like, for the life of me, I don't remember his name, but he was just like a really average looking middle-aged Asian man. And he told us that he was a doctor, and that he had been a devout Catholic all his life, and that he had 2 teenage kids. And he said that he decided to write this book after witnessing some of the things that his teenagers were going through, like growing up and dealing with school. And he thought, like, you know, my kids have me to help guide them, but there might be a lot of teenagers who don't have anyone there as like a guide to help them navigate, you know, teenage life, as it were. So he told us he was going to be giving us like a prototype copy of the book, and that we were supposed to read it. And then in the back of the prototype, there was an email. We're supposed to email him our feedback. All still really normal. He also let us know that all these creepy ass people that had come rushing in from the front door were members of his congregation, and that they were going to be there during the seminar as his assistants. Even with this information, this was still, while like I said, it was still a little sketchy. Hearing him talk, it kind of like alleviated some of the tension in the room. That is until he started to talk about passages from his book. So he basically told us that another reason why he wrote this book is that, you know, as I said before, it was supposed to help guide teenagers from teenagehood into adulthood, I guess. And he said that a problem with a lot of teenagers are facing is that they don't know who to look to for guidance, because a lot of people lie to us and lead us down the wrong path. And how essentially he wanted us to go to the book as a guide because we couldn't trust most of the adults in our lives, because most of the adults in our lives were filled with sin and could not be trusted. He started saying things like we couldn't talk to our parents because they're full of sin, they're sinful beings, and that they would lead us astray. He said that we couldn't talk to our teachers because our teachers are all taught sin, teach us sin, and are basically demons who cannot really lead us how they're supposed to, because they think they're doing good, but they're actually not, because they're sinful. And you can only help teach someone not to be sinful if you're not sinful yourself. I was sitting there just like, is this what this was gonna be about? I remember desperately like looking around at my teachers, who all looked horrified, by the way. I mean, my friends were just kind of stealing glances at each other like, the hell this guy is talking about, my guy? And I remember the dean of students, his face was so red. He was so mad. And no one said anything. It was just such like a weird situation that we were just kind of all sitting there awestruck, listening to this man say all these crazy things about all the faculty and all of our parents. He even told us that another thing he wanted to do with his congregation is that they wanted to set up a youth group, and he extended an invitation to us to come to his youth group, and that after the seminar they were going to be holding services, and that if any of us were interested, after the seminar we could hang back and we could give him our cell phone numbers, and he would set it up with one of the members of the congregation to go to wherever we were and pick us up and take us to the service. And I'm over here just like, sir, you can't be asking us teenagers to give you our personal information so you could take us without our parental permission to go to some weird service at some weird church with you and your weird beliefs. But obviously I didn't say anything like that, because I was literally tight-lipped, awestruck, staring straight forward, wondering, how the hell did I end up in this situation? So he keeps on talking about passages of the book. He said some things about like how evolution was fake. He said how Christianity is not actually correct, and the only way to heaven is to be a Catholic, things like that. And I'm not trying to shit on religion. If you're religious, that's completely fine. This guy was just a whole other level. He was a whole other level, right? And he kept going on and on about that, and everyone in the congregation, all his quote-unquote assistants, were just captivated by his nonsense, and everyone else in the room was all looking around like, who are you, sir? What are you doing? And he kept talking for like, it seemed like an hour. Finally the seminar was over, and he was just like, does anybody have any questions? And no one said anything. We were just kind of all staring at him, and I think he realized that we were all like, dude, what the hell? Because he just kind of stepped down from the podium really quickly. I remember looking to the side, and I saw the dean make a beeline toward him. He pulled the author aside, and then they were like in the back corner of the room talking. So the seminar was over. We were ready to get the hell up out of there, because we were just like, this was weird. We good. The next part of the story, do not judge me and my group of friends too harshly, because we were hungry teenagers. So like, if you remember, earlier in the story I said that they were going to be giving us food and drink. So, seminar is over, the dean is in the corner talking to the author, and at some point during the seminar, I don't remember at what point, I was so just, like I said, I was in shock. Some of the assistants had put out the food that they were going to be giving us, and the way that it was set up, the assistants ended up herding all of the students toward the table, and you couldn't really walk around them to get out without going to the table because of how they were standing. And when it was our turn to get up and start walking out, like I said, we had to go past the table, and I could see that the assistants, there was probably like 10 of them over there, they were handing out the food to the students ahead of us and giving them a book. So when it was our turn to get up to the table, I remember like looking at the food that they were giving us and thinking like, ugh. Not like, I remember thinking like, ew, because the combination of the food that they were giving us was like really random to me. I was just like, what is this? It was basically, it was a sugar cookie and grape juice, but the sugar cookie, it was like a size of like a regular sugar cookie, and you know like how sugar cookies have like frosting on them? There was no frosting on the sugar cookie, so it was like a plain sugar cookie and then like a cup of grape juice. And I was like, yeah, that's a really weird combination. But anyway, I took it, I took the cookie, I took the juice, they gave me a book, I'm like, okay, whatever, I'm out of this weird situation, and I left. So I hate sugar cookies, and I have a friend who I'm going to be calling Squishy. I have a friend named Squishy. She loves sugar cookies. She still loves sugar cookies. So I ended up giving her my sugar cookie. I was really thirsty, I guess, or something. So I kept the grape juice and I drink it. I regret that to this day. Nothing happened to me, but I'm like, after the situation, how sketched out I felt, I don't know why I proceeded to consume something that they gave me. Anyway, when we were outside, I was drinking my juice, my friends were drinking the juice, eating their cookies. We realized that my friend Shorty, the one who had made me remember all of this situation that I'm talking about, was missing. So my friend, who I'm going to be calling Fangs, she looked over into the classroom and saw that Shorty was still in the room at the table. Then suddenly, Shorty comes busting out of the classroom, and she is so mad. She walks straight to the nearest trash can and throws away the cookie and the juice, which we all should have done, but I digress. And we were all super confused, so we walked over to her. We're like, dude, are you okay? Like, what's wrong? And then she began to tell us essentially why she was held up behind us. So she realized something that none of us realized, because while none of us were really religious or knew much about religion, Shorty's family was really religious, and she was really religious at the time. So when she got up to the table and she saw the combination of food that they were giving us, she put something together that the rest of us did not get at all. Because earlier, the author did tell us that he was a devout Catholic, and essentially what they had done was they tricked a bunch of teenagers into taking Catholic communion. Because, you know, in communion, you eat the flesh of Jesus, you drink his blood. They had given us some weird mock version of that as the plain sugar cookie and the grape juice instead of like wine or whatever it is that they use normally. She realized that and was just like, oh hell no, I want nothing to do with any of this bull. And she decided to just walk past all the people trying to give her the cookie and the juice and leave the room. When she tried to get out, a man came out from behind the table and stood in front of her and gave her the cookie and the juice. And he was like, hey, you know, you forgot these. And she didn't take them. She was like, you know, no, I'm okay. I don't want any. And he got more forceful with her. He was like, no, you forgot these. And she again was just like, no, I don't want them. I'm okay. Thank you, though. And he was like, no, you forgot these. And he kept getting more and more forceful. So she was freaked out. So she just took the cookie and the juice and he let her leave. And that's when we saw her after this interaction that she had with this like full-grown adult man who would not let her leave the classroom and was forcing her to take these things. So we didn't understand why she was upset when we saw her walking outside, but like after she told us, we were like, oh, okay, that's not okay. So when she explained like, yeah, like they just tricked a bunch of people, because like there was a bunch of the students who were still outside like eating the cookie and drinking the juice. They were like, she was like, yeah, this was like some weird communion that this guy just like tricked us all into doing. And like, what are you gonna say at that point? It's like, okay, well, I guess I only took half communion because I didn't eat the cookie. We just kind of kept it to ourselves because my friend Squishy, her mom came to pick us up, and like I don't know why we didn't tell any of our parents. We went to Squishy's house, and like some of us had the book, like we'd taken the book, and I remember we were sitting in her guest bedroom, and we were just kind of just like flipping through the book and like reading some of the passages and just making fun of it. Like we kind of like tried to like lighten the mood because it was a weird experience that we just went through. And the next day at school, when I got to my English class with my teacher, I remember I asked her, I was just like, yeah, so what was that yesterday? And she just apologized. She's like, that was not what it was supposed to be. I don't know what that was, but that was not what was supposed to have happened during that seminar. And like, just like that, no one ever spoke about it ever again. And I guess, like I said at the beginning of the story, I had buried that memory way deep down. So there's actually a little bit more to this story. So I call these people a cult, but when I was a teenager, I didn't know that they were a cult. I actually ended up having a little bit more of an interaction with them when I was older. So it's, now I think about it, it's actually a little creepy because so a few months after Shorty had made me remember this whole story, I was working in a fast food place at the time, and I was the morning manager. And a lot of the times I was there in the store by myself for about like 2 or so hours before any of my coworkers showed up. And I would just be, setting up the store, getting stuff ready for the day. It also wasn't weird for like the first few orders of the day for me to have to make by myself. And like I said, like maybe 5 or so months after me remembering this story, this little old Asian lady started coming in the mornings. Like, she would come in right when the store opened. She would never buy anything, but she asked me if she could put some flyers down, advertising like this traditional Chinese dancing show, which wasn't super weird because I've had people do that before. So I was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. And when I said yes, he started regularly coming like every, like, I want to say like 3 or so weeks and putting down more flyers, One day she came in and she asked me again if she could put down more stuff. Like I said, I didn't care, so she went to put them down. And I wasn't really paying attention until maybe like 30 or so minutes after she left. I went back up to the front counter, and instead of flyers, there was a bunch of books. And I was like, what? So I went over to the pile of books, and I looked at the cover, and I am not kidding. This was it looked exactly like the book that the guy had given us when we were teenagers. So I didn't explain how the book looked earlier, but essentially the book prototype that he gave us that we were supposed to get like feedback on, it was had a white cover, and it had a large picture of the author on the front, and there was like the title of the book. This book looked almost exactly the same. It was like a white cover. It did have like some like blue on it a bit, and it had a giant picture of I swear to you, it was the exact same guy. Had a picture of him on the front and had the title and everything, and I'm just like I'm like, no, this can't be. This is not happening right now. So I take the stack of books and I head over to like my manager desk, and I sit down and I start to like flip through it a bit, and it is the same old crazy religious nonsense. I'm like, what? Wait, what's happening? So I threw the books away, but I ended up keeping one book because I wanted to be like, if I ever tell this story to anyone, I want them to see the book to see what I'm talking about. I went home and I did some research on the guy, and it turns out that there is some type of weird like religious cult that's in a lot of Asian countries that this guy was tied to, and like they recruit people randomly off the street, and they do things like this where they do seminars that are kind of like a bait and switch. Like they'll do seminars for jobs, seminars for like what happened to us with like at the high school, things like that. And I'm like, well, this is super creepy, and I'm so upset. I'm so mad because so this all happened like with them coming in and leaving the books. This happened like 3 years ago. It was a long time ago, and I had the book put aside. Last December I moved, and I packed the book up, and I can't find it anywhere. I literally looked for it before I started recording this because I'm like, I wanted to read some passages out of the book for you guys, but I don't know where it is. I literally, it belongs to the void now, I guess. I'm sure it's here somewhere, but I still have some boxes that I haven't opened, and it's probably in one of those boxes, and I'm just like, you know what, you guys just have to take my word for it because I cannot find this freaking book. And well, that is the story of how a cult came to my high school. So anyway, here's the finished picture. Like I said, I was experimenting with my coloring style, and to be honest, I don't really love it. It turned out alright, I guess. I mean, it is cute, but like there's some parts that I like, there's some parts I don't. Like I really like how their hair came out, but their clothes, it's kind of like whatever. Anyway, thanks everyone again for all the subs. If you like my work, please subscribe and give me a like. If you want to see more of my artwork, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm mostly active there, so that's the best place to follow me if you want to see more of my art. I'll put my Instagram up on the screen. So anyway, happy Halloween, and goodbye, you beautiful people. I'll see you next week. Bye!